Hi, welcome to day 11 of 365 Days of Inspiration. Today we will be talking about the word acceptance. Stick around. Welcome back to another day of 365 Days of Inspiration, the art of becoming an elephant. As a lot of you guys probably already know, as of today, I haven't picked up a drink or a drug or done anything of that nature in, well, 19 years. On the 27th, if I continue to do things the way I'm doing it, I'll have 20 years. So just kind of saying that, I might have a little bit of love for 12-step programs. That's okay if you don't have a love for 12-step programs. That's not what this is all about. But I did learn some great things while being in recovery. One of the most powerful words I learned was the word acceptance. And there's a part in a book that I read when I go and do recovery stuff, and the line says, acceptance is the answer to all my problems. When I am disturbed, it's because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can't find any peace until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation for being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, and you know what, I messed this up. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. So that is like, and I probably screwed that up really badly, but paraphrasing, that's kind of what it says. And the reason I think this is so powerful is because I walked around in life for a long period of time thinking that God had made some kind of a mistake with my life. I thought, how could you let all these things happen? How could I go through the things that I went through as a person or a child that you supposedly loved and have it be your will? I struggled with the word acceptance for a long time. And then I sat back and I kind of, started learning about all this stuff here. And one of the things that became clear, the universe is always out for my greater good. Now, saying that is kind of a bold thing because that means that anything that happens is in the universe's power, and that means that also anything that happens is the universe's will. So that's where it kind of gets a little bit sticky here. So let's take a look. I always tell this story called the car crash story. Any of my students that show up, if I tell them this is a car crash, they know exactly what I mean. But you might not know what I mean, so I'm going to tell the story to you. So once upon a time, there was a man. I'll just say it's a man this time. Whoever I'm talking to, if you're a woman, it's a woman, okay? If you're a man, it's a man. Once upon a time, there was a man. And this man got a phone call. And somebody on the other line said, I have $1 million deal for you. All you have to do is show up to Los Angeles, this address, down on 3rd Street, downtown, and be on the 5th floor at 5 p.m. sharp. Not a minute sooner, not a minute later, but you must be there. And the guy said, oh my gosh, this is the answer to all my problems. This is it. I'm going to be a millionaire. And so it was about, and I have to tell you, the guy started out in Orange County, which is about 30 miles, 40 miles from LA. So he started out in Orange County and he's going to drive to LA. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to get there with no traffic. With traffic, it could take about 2 hours. So this guy at 1 o'clock decides, you know what? I'm going to take off now because no matter what, I can hang out there and wait a while, but I don't want to be late. So he gets in his car and he starts driving. He makes it about 15 miles and he notices he has to stop and get gas. So he pulls over and he gets gas, gets back onto the freeway, keeps going, plenty of time left. About 10 minutes later, he gets a flat tire. Not a big deal. Pulls over, he's got a spare tire in the back. He's going to be a millionaire at 5 o'clock, so it doesn't really matter. So he takes out the spare tire and he changes the tire. Puts the flat tire in the back, closes up shop in the trunk, and takes off. About 5 minutes later, sure enough, 5 minutes after driving, he gets another flat tire. And he's going, oh my gosh, what's happening today? It's like, what? Do you not want me to be a millionaire? I mean, come on, what's going on here? And he says, pulls over, doesn't have another spare, so he calls a tow truck. Tow truck comes, picks up the car, takes it. He's really not worried about it because he's got hours left. They get him to the tire place. He looks in his bank account. There's not a ton of money, but it's okay. He's going to be a millionaire at 5 o'clock. So he uses all the rest of his money and he pays them, and he gets it back into his car and he starts driving. About 5 minutes outside of LA, he's hitting traffic. It's stopped. It's not a big deal, you know. It's going a little bit slower than what he wants it to, but not a big deal. He's still going to make it in plenty of time. He's sitting there for about another half an hour in traffic, and all of a sudden, there's a break. So he starts driving like a bat at it, and sure enough, he gets into a car accident. Completely totals his car, breaks his leg, and the ambulance comes, and the guy goes, "Look, you need to get me downtown LA." The guy's like, "No, I need to take you. You're hurt much worse than you think you are." The guy goes, "No, no, listen, I'm going to be a millionaire. I need you to get me to LA. I need you to get me downtown 3rd Street. And the guy says, "I can't do that to you, sir." He says, You're hurt a lot worse than you know. And he says, "It's just a break in my leg. I don't even care. I'll fix it later." They don't. He starts to get hysterical. They end up, taking him, holding him down, putting him out. And he wakes up the next day. Everybody's sitting around his hospital bed looking at him. And everybody's got this concerned looks on their face. And he goes, "What date is it?" And they tell him the date. And it's the next day. And he goes, and he just starts losing his mind. He starts crying. And he says, "Oh my gosh, I was supposed to make it to that building in LA yesterday at 5 o'clock. I can't believe it. This is terrible." And everybody's like, "No, no, no, no. This is so good. We're so glad you didn't make it to that building in LA at 5 o'clock. And he goes, "What are you talking about? This is the worst thing that has ever happened." And somebody else says, "Look, the universe is always out for your greater good." And he's, "I don't want to hear about the universe being out for my greater good. I could have been a millionaire." And somebody points down on his lap, and on his lap is a newspaper. And he looks down at the newspaper, and on the newspaper, it has a story about a bomb that went off at exactly 5 p.m. in the same building that he was in downtown LA. And had he been in that building at 5 o'clock, he would have died. And everybody says, "Don't you understand? The universe is always out for your greater good." So first of all, the universe is always out for our greater good. Second of all, the universe is always watching out for us, always has our back. And third of all, sometimes the universe gets us out of the place that we're sitting still at. What you don't know about the end of this story is that the guy ends up meeting somebody else in the hospital. And he ends up doing business with this guy, and $1 million is not what he makes. He makes far more than $1 million. Had he not gone and gotten out of the house that day and gone to this thing, this dangled carrot of $1 million, he never would have gotten into the car accident. He never would have gone into the hospital. He never would have met this man. That's the way the world works sometimes. Being able to sit in acceptance is the best thing that we can do. Acceptance. If we think that a situation is not the way that we think it should be in acceptance. The universe is always out for our greater good. Accept everything as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at every single moment. It's not always easy to do. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. I do believe that the universe is out for my greater good because I see it all over the place. I just had to have faith. I don't always know what's good for me. And sometimes I need a carrot dangled in front of my face to get me to take an action. Yesterday and the day before, we talked about ready, fire, aim. Now we start firing at something and start aiming. And if we're in acceptance, then whatever shows up is exactly what's supposed to show up. And even if something doesn't look the way that you think that it should look, don't turn your back on it. Because chances are, sometimes the universe will drop things into our lap that don't look exactly like what we've ordered. But if we go down that rabbit hole or we follow the path of whatever this lays out for us, we will find out that we get exactly what we want. And sometimes not only exactly what we want, we get exactly what we had no idea we really wanted in the first place. So yeah, a lot of people might call this faith. Acceptance is basically the same thing. Acceptance is knowing that everything is happening for your greater good. And however it's happening, we accept it. Now, I need to throw this in because a lot of people go, "Oh, well, I'm broke, so I'm just gonna accept it." Or, "Oh, well, I don't have a boyfriend, so I'm just gonna accept it." Or, "Oh, we're just getting a divorce, so I'm just gonna accept it." That's not what we're talking about. I'm not talking about things that you could change. If you can change something or take an action that's in the direction of your greater good, do it. Remember, if we do the 4 agreements, which I talk about the 4 agreements, and I will be explaining the 4 agreements later on in greater detail, but one of the 4 agreements is always doing our best. And if we're always doing our best, then if we see that we can take some kind of an action to make things greater, then we do that. So acceptance is one of those things that if we're setting out and we're doing our best, we're on a direction and something happens, we don't get angry and we don't demand that this thing happens the way we want it to. Sometimes we just accept that's the way it is. And if you're in acceptance, you'll be able to see things for what they truly are. If you're not in acceptance, then you're not going to be able to see things for the way they truly are. You're going to only be able to see things for the way you want them to be. And sometimes things are not the way we want them to be. I guess today was just a little bit of talking. So I guess the only assignment I'm going to give you is to show up tomorrow. I guess tomorrow's another day and we'll have more. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Please do me a favor, subscribe to my channel down there, share this, leave me a comment. If you like it, give me the thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.